episode number 50, the first of hopefully many of Tony Miltenberger's and mine's milestone with this podcast right here. Unfortunately, Tony's traveling today and was unable to be with us. But this show exists for one reason, and that's to spotlight local Ohio business, the leaders who built them, and what they learned along the way. And today's guest is one of Centerville, Ohio's own, Ryan Hawk. Ryan's a keynote speaker, leadership advisor, host of the Learning Leader Show, which Forbes called the most dynamic leadership podcast out there. Nearly 700 episodes with some of the most recognized leaders in the world. Ryan competed with Ben Roethlisberger for the starting quarterback job at Miami University. I always love hearing that story. Then was captain of Ohio. He competed at Miami University, and then he was team captain at Ohio University. Spent 12 years in corporate America with a multi-billion-dollar company, rising to VP sales. 4-time best-selling author with his most recent book, The Price of Becoming, coming out July 21st. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Greg. I appreciate all the work you do, and I love the specific emails that you send me on a regular basis about certain episodes or things going on. I think being very specific in your praise and in your ask are important, and you're a prime shining example of a guy who lives that out. And I'm sure if you're doing it for me, you're probably doing it for lots of people. So it's very cool, man.
Thank you so much. I remember walking. My wife and I go to Florida for about 40 days every year in the end of February and March, and I remember walking on Sanibel Island one day listening to your podcast like I did, and it was Tony Robbins. And I remembered emailing you back and saying, boy, he has a lot of information, but it was very uncustomary that you got a chance that you didn't get a chance to really direct the questioning, because every time you'd ask him for something, he'd take off and go.
Some of those guys are they're. I mean, he speaks on stage for like 15 hours a day at his events. I've never been to one, but I've heard about them. So if you've got 15 hours a day worth of stuff, you got a lot to say. So yeah, in that case, it's kind of ask a question and then let the guy roll. So, they're all different. I think that's part of the cool thing about hosting a podcast, as now you're seeing through these first 50 episodes, is everybody's different. Everyone has their own style and their own way. Some, it'll be more conversational. Some, you'll ask a question and they'll go on a monologue. I mean, it just depends. And I think that's just like it is when you stand on the sidelines of your daughter's soccer game. The same thing happens, or you go to a school event and you're talking to parents or teachers. So in a way, it kind of prepares you for life. It prepares you to be a better conversationalist. It prepares you, I think, to be a better listener, to probably ask better questions. And all of those things are good with the relationships that you want to build, regardless whether it's at home or in your community.
Well, I appreciate the praise that you gave our podcast, and I have the same for you. You've always been extremely responsive in emails and quick also. So I want to make an observation, and then I would like your kind of take on it. I've listened to, I've got to believe, 90% of your podcasts. And early on in the podcast, when you were just getting started, you weren't as well known. And I know I was in awe of the people that you had on, the quality of leaders that you had right off the bat. And I have to imagine at some point you were a little bit in awe. But now the trajectory is 700 episodes, and whether you look at Apple Podcast or Spotify Podcast, you're near the top, if not at the top. Leaders I see now when I listen, look at you. I hate to say equal, but I can't think of a better analogy. How does that feel right there? Does it feel different now than what it did?
Yes, it feels really cool. I mean, this has happened in sports a little bit where you can meet your heroes, and I've never like become peers with my heroes in sports. My younger brother has, and it's been fun to be able to experience that through him. Legends like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers and many other great players that have become friends and contemporaries and peers. And so for me to get a chance to meet my literary heroes, my leadership heroes, and develop actual real relationships with them has been probably like one of the coolest parts of doing this show for the past 11 years. A couple things happen out of those relationships. One, you realize that they are they're just humans just like you who have the same messy lives, and they're still struggling with how to log on to Zoom properly, or figuring out what to say at their next keynote, or how to open or transition from one point to the next, or how to start a chapter of their next book. And so it is kind of in a way, it's like very inspiring to see that all of you get a chance to meet your heroes and become friends with them, and then you notice that they're figuring it out as they go, just like everyone else. And so to me, I think that's like one of the most inspiring things about getting to know these people better, and getting a peek inside of their lives is it's like literally there's that Steve Jobs big poster that Pat McAfee hangs up in his studio, basically stating, I'll paraphrase, that the whole world was created by people, and those people are no smarter than you. So why not try to go do something incredible? And that's inspiring to me as I get a chance to meet these people. So yeah, it's probably evolved, it's changed. With that said, I was brought up to be humble and to be curious and to be respectful of other people. And so I've tried to treat people, regardless of their stature or their power or whatever, to treat them all with kindness and curiosity. And that doesn't mean the guy who comes and cleans out the trash in my studio is going to get treated the exact same way as Admiral William McRaven, and everyone in between. So I think that's just probably from my upbringing and my parents, that it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to treat somebody different because of any whatever perceived power that they have. It's really they're a human. Let's treat them with kindness and curiosity, and and that seems to work out well.
Well, a common thread. It's daunting. It was daunting for me to put this together because I know the level of preparation that you put into your podcast. And I wanted to be as equally prepared. But I'm going to jump off script, which scares the heck out of me here because
Isn't that the
you
fun,
brought
though,
up
Greg? That's
something.
the fun of podcast, isn't it?
It
That's why
is.
you do this, isn't it?
It is. It is. Well, you bring up something. I made a note. I made a couple notes for if I ran out of things to say and it didn't feel like we were quite complete. But you brought up your upbringing, and you lean into your dad and your brother. Every milestone episode, I believe it started at 100, and if not, it was quickly after every milestone episode on the mark 100. You have them on. And this folds into something else that you said. Your level of comfort with these podcast guests probably grows with relationship, but you're to speak a little bit more about your relationship with your dad and your brother, because it's oftentimes brought up in such a edifying way, and it's really cool for the listener. It's really neat to hear.
What does edifying mean?
And lifting
Okay.
up, propping up, speaking highly of.
Oh, okay, good, cool. Well, I mean, those are for me. Every 100 episodes, it's like, you ever heard these people that work in the arts, like an actor or something? They say, okay, one for them, one for me, one for them, one for me. Sometimes you do things, and so those ones are really for me. We do drafts, we do stupid things. I mean, my brother is he's on TV every day now with Pat and the boys, and so you get a sense of his personality. He speaks the least, but when he speaks, it's usually funny. It's usually some sort of weird inside joke that's for him and the guys. That's the same way my relationship is with him, whether it's texting. See, I just at his house last week when I was in Columbus, and that's going on the same time. We go on a couple of trips together every year. So it's just for me to have fun. He likes to make fun of me. I like to make fun of him. We like to give each other a hard time. We try not to take life too seriously. Like whatever it is that we're doing, we're going to work really, really hard. We're going to be prepared. We're going to try to do a good job. We're going to have very high standards, but also just like joke constantly. I think that's a theme of our life. and then have my dad on there. I mean, my dad, one, he's just a great storyteller. He's a great public speaker, a phenomenal communicator, an incredible writer. And so, yeah, I think we started at 200 with those, and it really was just kind of a way to get a peek inside of our lives. We get questions about our family and about what it's like. And my dad's nickname is Pistol, and he's constantly questioning about all this stuff. And so we just talk through those stories. We have fun with it. I, there's probably big stretches of those episodes that aren't really that useful for anyone but us. Or our family, and but that's okay. We're having fun. What's the point of doing all this stuff if you're not trying to enjoy it? Like, I have some very serious moments with certain guests. I have one coming up with this holistic psychologist where I was way out of depth. I had no idea what I was talking about, just trying to hang on and not sound like an idiot. I'm stressed for an hour there, hour and a half there. It's nice to be able to go and talk with my dad and brother and just kind of do what we normally would do if we weren't recording it. So we try to have fun with it, man. I mean, what's the point of doing all this stuff if we're not going to try to enjoy it along the way?
Absolutely. You can pass on to your brother that we had an interaction with him on the elevator at Ohio Stadium. We are large. We're one of the largest progressive insurance agencies in Southwest Ohio. So one of the executives invited us to an Ohio State Army game. He knew I was an Army vet, and we were on the elevator going up to the suite, and Brady Quinn and AJ Hawk were doing the game, and they got on the elevator with us. And I was telling AJ that I listened to your podcast, and that was a while ago. That had to be 5, 6 years ago. And when he turned, he backed up and stepped on my wife's foot. And I tell you what, she's tough, because I mean, it was a full step, probably more than half of his body weight, and she was wearing flip-flops. So
I hope
but
he said he was sorry.
she didn't make a sound. I don't think he knew that he did it, because it was
Oh
a
no.
pre-packed elevator. But so curiosity, one of the things that I've noticed from the very beginning, curiosity is the engine behind everything that you do. When did that start? I mean, was that football? Was that when you were at LexisNexis? I know at LexisNexis, you always wanted to be in the room with the highest volume seller. Did the curiosity really start to evolve when you started doing your show?
It's a learned skill. That definitely did not grow up curious. That wasn't a reader. I read like little sports books, things here and there. Our whole life was sports, football, baseball, basketball. We lived near Forest Field Park in Centerville, so we'd play tennis. We'd go out and run in the park, pass. Whatever sport was in season is what we played. And so I didn't really, we didn't go to museums. We didn't even go on that many vacations. We were always just playing sports, and we loved that. It was awesome. I would say I got into becoming more curious when I got a real job for the first time at LexisNexis. So my first boss, a guy I love and still see regularly, named Rex Caswell, hired me. He probably shouldn't have. He's friends with my dad. That was the main reason why I got hired. But also Rex knew me since I was a little kid, and so he had watched me grow up. He saw me lead football teams. He come to my games and when I was little in high school and in college. And then once my career was over after playing arena football, he hired me. And one of the first things he offered up as an idea was to sit in the cubicles and listen to calls, and then to interview the top 10 reps, and this, like the stack rankings that they release every day at LexisNexis. And so we found the top 10 of the people who were consistent performers over the past few years. And then he helped me create the interview questions, and then I would listen to them make calls. And so I spent the first few months of my career. It's my first ever real job. My other jobs were all like manual labor things in warehouses and forklift trucks and painting walls and random stuff that high school kids do. And so that was like a crazy experience for me, because I like felt like I was getting all of the answers to the test. All of the best people were just telling me exactly. And then I kind of developed some follow-up questions based off of what they would
That's a good
say.
way to put that.
What's that?
That's a good way to put that.
Yeah, well, I mean, and then all of a sudden, I have like this book, and Rex and I reviewed all of the kind of the answers and what were some of the commonalities of the best of the best, and then I just tried to kind of implement what I was learning. And so Yeah, I mean, maybe just because I was younger and stupid before then, but I realized, like, wait a second, like, there's a lot of power in just asking people what they do and how they do it and why they do it and what made them say this instead of that. And so all of a sudden, this kind of curiosity muscle was being worked really for the first time, and I just kind of, it kind of becomes contagious. You just keep doing it. You create momentum for yourself. And so I did go back to school to get my MBA. It took me 6 years. I did not love the process of that. To get this certification of the Masters of Business Administration, you have to go to all these classes that they tell you to go to, and with professors that they tell you to go to, and you don't get to pick anything. So I thought, well, my company paid for it though, but so I should go back to school though, right? I should continue to use this company reimbursement money. So I looked at going back to school, but after my MBA, and then thought, like, I'm listening to these podcasts where like Joe Rogan or Bill Simmons or my friend Todd Henry down in Cincinnati. Why not just create my own form of leadership PhD program and kind of use this muscle that I've been working now that Rex helped me develop and do that. And so that's how it all really got started. But yeah, curiosity, some say, well, you like, oh yeah, I was always curious. Well, that's not the case. I think it's a muscle that can be developed and can be worked on. And I think that's also inspiring because some people maybe don't have that. Well, you can have that. It's just a matter of working it, just like any other muscle. And to me, I think it can be life-changing if you do.
Well, I tell you, last week I had a young lady that runs a group home for troubled youth, and one of the things I stole a Tony Miltenberger question, and I asked her. I said, go back to when you were your younger self, and what advice would you give her? And that was the very first thing she said. I've learned to ask questions. I've learned to be curious. I've learned to copycat. And I told her, I said, it's so ironic that you brought that up, because the guy who really accentuated that in my life is going to be my guest next week. So it's a common thread, but I agree with it as a muscle. If anybody were to ever listen to one of your podcasts, there's a lot of information, and I'm going to say this as a statement, and I want you to react to it, because it was the lightning bolt when you said it. You've said it many times, but it was the lightning bolt that zeroed me in. You said that every single day you try to do something extremely hard. I know oftentimes it's a sprint at Stubbs Park, but something that you don't want to do, but you exercise that muscle right there. When did that start?
I mean, I learned that from Bob Gregg and Ron Ullery when I was an eighth grader at Centerville High School. I mean, I was going into my freshman year. Coach Gregg pulled me aside the spring of my eighth grade year when I was at Tower Heights Middle School and said, "We want you to work. We want you to work out with us, the varsity team," which I was shocked. I mean, it made no sense to me. And then I started going. The first day I remember I was so intimidating and so scary to be around these grown men, 14 years old, very skinny, very small, not prepared, not ready for anything like that. And every day it didn't really get easier for a while, maybe like a year. Yeah, not until I became a sophomore, probably, just scared to death. But that just builds such immense confidence. Confidence needs evidence. And so you have to continually find opportunities to create evidence for yourself to be confident. And that's where I learned that is getting up super early, punishing myself. There are trash cans everywhere for people to be puking, the running, the lifting, the length of the workouts. I mean, it was insane. They don't do any of that stuff today. They're much wiser from a scientific perspective. With that said, I wonder if they miss any of the kind of mental toughness that is built through these marathon sessions of getting destroyed by your coaches and by the older guys on the team, who then you ultimately don't want to let down. And so, yeah, I would say I certainly learned it there, and am very, very grateful my parents moved to Centerville, because that gave me the opportunity to meet these psychos who really pushed me to perform at levels that I didn't think I was capable of. And ultimately, that's what great leaders do. They get you to perform at levels that you weren't even sure you could get to. And I think without them, without that, I probably just would have been okay. I would have been another decent high school athlete, certainly not getting a college scholarship. But because of them, I learned that. And now that's the cool thing about those formative years in your life, and why I'm such an advocate for the coaches on my team who are also high school coaches. And I don't want them to stop being high school sports coaches, because I know the difference that those people, like the coaches, can make in a kid's life. It will change the arc of how you approach each day. And so, yes, punishing myself physically, mentally every day has not changed. I still do it every day. I think it makes me better. I think it continues to create evidence for myself, and whether that's in the weight room, that's running, that's getting on stages in front of brilliant people. I was at Christ Hospital last week. There's all these doctors and clinicians and super smart, highly educated people, and they're asking me to try to teach them something. I mean, very intimidating room, but but once you get in there, right, if you want to be good on a stage in front of a few hundred people who are really smart, you just got to let it rip. You got to go for it. And so that is like, but right before I walked in that stage, great opportunity to create some evidence today, man. Let's go. Let's put on a show. Let's get after it. And I think continuously doing stuff like that makes me feel better when I'm on a microphone interviewing a brilliant person, when I'm in a room full of highly educated, smart people, whatever it may be. And so I just want to, I never want to lose. Again, that's a muscle. I never want to lose any of that muscle. I want it to get stronger and stronger.
I love the saying, confidence needs evidence.
Yes.
I love that right there. I've heard you say it many times. Tony, I was talking to Tony prior to putting together show notes and everything, and he brought up a really good point that I don't know that I would have saw. He pointed out that Jim Collins once told you that the most important question isn't in life isn't what, but who. And we've seen you take that to heart over the past couple years, because instead of just being a podcast practitioner where it's solo, you've developed these learning circles and created high quality experiences in them. What is the defining factor in just a average experience and a truly exceptional one?
Kind of when you get together in person, or just in
Yeah, the
general?
learning circles. I know once a year, or maybe even more than once a year, you take them on an experience, and it's really impressive. Tony said that as he listens and hears about it frequently. I mean, you guys just did Sedona, Arizona.
Yeah. I mean, so um, it's really helped getting to meet guys like Will Guidara, who wrote Unreasonable Hospitality, and Will's been instrumental kind of behind the scenes helping me create these things. Jesse Cole is all about the fan experience. Jason
Yeah, he
Gaynard,
is.
who's guest number one, is all about I went to Mastermind Talks, and he's always available for me. I've stolen a ton from the way Jason hosts Mastermind Talks into my events. I'm just always thinking Brian Chesky. I haven't talked to him, but he talks about like these 7-star experiences, 12-star experiences. You can look up all of the videos on what Brian Chesky from Airbnb talks about, these crazy experiences. So I ask my guys, my coaches, my teammates, as well as the event producer, how can we make this an unreasonable hospitality type event? What can we do that is insane? What can we do that people say, what? Like, it's not all about money. It's about service. It's about tiny, tiny details. And so we're always trying to up the game so that when people come to our event, it's happening now in 3.5 weeks. So it's getting close. I'm in the final stages of this year's event. And we're just trying to think of like every single detail. The seating is very important. The dinner seating is a little bit different. The morning activities are unique. There's a little bit of element of surprise, so that's being built into it as well. So I think people go to events for their companies, do things all the time, and I've gone to those events too. I speak at a lot of those events, and they're fine or they're good. I want ours to be like something you've never experienced before. And so there is nothing off the table when it comes to ideas from anyone involved with hosting the events now that it's not just me, it's a team of people that does it. And so I'm always searching and looking for potential ways to blow people's minds. In addition to creating this really nice container for people to develop a few friendships that they'll have for the rest of their lives. So it's really all about the people in the room. In addition to my leadership circle members, I do invite guests that I think will make the room better, that will lift up the room, and I'm thinking about who those extra kind of guests are year round. And yeah, I'm pumped about it for this year. Again, it's very top of mind for me because we're doing it soon in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm excited to get there because there's nothing especially today, even more so, I think there's just nothing like the power of literally bumping shoulders, having a collision of curious people in a space together. It's cool to see the lifelong relationships that have been built from us hosting those events over the years.
Well, a common friend that we both have, and common place that we go, Southbrook, Charlie McMahon. I've been going there for 25 years. Charlie's on the podcast next Monday, and I'm really excited about that. And he's always said in the 25 years I've went to Southbrook that excellence will be the theme in anything and everything that we do, and you see it and the way the grounds are kept up. The facility maintenance team is incredible. So I get that right there.
How good is
Uh,
Charlie, man? Seriously, how good is he? I mean,
uh,
I'm just blown away. He'll send a text every once in a while, just checking in, and again, specific like you are with the emails. And yeah, man, the sustained excellence of that guy is just so cool. Like it's also he's one of the easiest people in the world to root for because you could tell he's genuinely close with a ton of people. Like everybody in his life, they feel like they're best friends because I feel like he genuinely cares for people in a way that I don't know, man. Yeah. Anytime his name gets brought up, I'm just so. It makes me feel so good when great things happen for great people and to see what he's built. Um, yeah, it's not surprising because you see how much he cares and he's really smart. He's an amazing communicator and he works really, really hard at it. Yeah, I root hard for people like Charlie McMahon, man.
Yeah, you talk to any staff members and they will tell you that he wears the ministry heavy. He's gotten better about it, but he's recreated himself a couple different times. There's been a couple different evolutions of them, but they've all been for the better, and I think the world of him.
Same.
So, question for you: when you're constantly interviewing the elite leaders in the world, and you're on the search for either the next podcast guest, or since you have become uber successful in writing, and I could take the podcast a whole different direction just to talk about the discipline that you have instilled in yourself to write, because I know that you said you originally weren't that. But how do you decide now that you can handpick a few? How do you decide guests, and what is a topic that might be lingering in the back of your mind about a potential next book? And I don't want to be premature there because The Price of Becoming is coming out here in July. But how do you decide guest topics and book topics now that you've rubbed shoulders with so many elite leaders?
Um, I the topic is not something I care about as much as the human, the actual person. So I really look for I think people leading and living fascinating lives, accomplished people who have tried to make a positive dent in the world, ones that are hopefully good storytellers as well, although sometimes they're not, and we don't release those episodes. And also
I
someone
didn't
that
know
I'm
that.
curious. I'm sorry.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. We have unfortunately a big list of those too, but I can get into that if you want in a second. But and then to me, am I curious enough about them and their story to do 10 to 15 hours worth of research? So that's a question I have to ask myself before I decide to record with anybody. And because now, I still want to work the cold email muscle. I still cold email every day. I sent one, in fact, 5 minutes before we connected here to someone. And I still think you got to always be working that the first few hundred episodes were 100% cold emails. Now it's kind of flipped where I've built really great relationships with a lot of people who work in PR or who are working the communication staff, or they're hired by the leaders that I have on my show, and so they basically will send me their list of clients, and then I can sometimes just choose who I want on that list to record with. So it's a little bit flipped, but I do think you should always work that muscle. But yeah, really, it's about Are they accomplished? Are they trying to leave a positive dent in the world? Are they a good storyteller? And am I curious enough about them and their story to do 10 to 15 hours worth of work? And if it checks all those boxes, then I record with them. If it doesn't, then I don't. And so that's really how I make those decisions.
I'll give you props with Jesse Cole with Savannah Bananas. That dude is insanely aware of everything that goes on in his organization, and you bring it out of him. He could probably sit and tell the story himself, but I love your interactions with him, and I like when he gets on a rant when you stop him and dig down a little bit deeper because maybe he wants to move on to something else. So kudos there, my friend.
That
Kudos.
guy, I went down to Savannah because I just wanted to be in his presence, and we spent half a day together. He gave me the full tour. He knew everybody's names. He was singing the whole time because he had just recorded some original music that I think is starting to come out. Um, he was bouncing off the walls with energy. He loved every second of that day, and I feel like he does every day. The people, the way they react to him, the way they respond to him, it was so. All six of the baseball teams were there that day. They were all practicing, they're rotating, they're lifting weights, practicing in the locker room, getting ready. We recorded in the locker room together. So I think those are also, and it's a whole separate conversation, but it's worth it to get on the plane and go see some people. I'm actually leaving tomorrow to go see one of my heroes. I'm not going to say who yet, but I don't want to jinx it like he doesn't show up. But
Right.
it's a big one, and so I think every once in a while you do the thing that maybe doesn't make sense, like from a time perspective or a cost, but I'm trying to optimize for living a cool life and building great relationships. And a lot of times that means like go see the people in person, see them in their environment, see what it's like. And so, yeah, you talk about Jesse Cole, and that was just an incredible day. It was kind of a pain to get there. You got to have connecting flights and drive and all this stuff. I don't remember any of that part of it. I just remember how amazing it was to walk the field and all the surrounding areas down in Savannah with him. And my guy Corey, who videos everything for me, was there with his wife, and it was a really special moment for them too. And so it was just a great day. So yeah, I think sometimes you do things that maybe financially or again time wise don't make a lot of sense. If you're optimizing for living a cool life and meeting like incredible people, then you got to get on the plane and go.
I love that. Well, my last question here. I was talking this over with my wife Stacy because she is my sounding board. She's my litmus test.
How long you guys been married?
That is a really dumb idea.
How long you been married?
We're gonna be 14 years this year here.
What's the key? Like, what's been the key over? Because 14 years is a long time. What's been the key to you guys improving as a couple over the course of 14 years?
Boy, so we're in business together. She's the business manager for our agency, and that can create a grind, as you can imagine. And I'm sure, as some people that you've interviewed have said, uh, I hold her on a higher pedestal than I would ever put myself. And I tell her that all the time. I do everything I can to show it to her. And when you can make your wife feel more than equal isn't even right. Equal isn't that's not the bar.
Yeah.
When you can make your wife feel like she is the reason that this last question is couched the way it is and positioned the way it is in the interview, just because she's a brilliant thinker. I'm pie in the sky. Let's go for it. I'm all gas, no brake. She hits the gas, but she's got a lot of brake when brake is necessary.
So you guys are a good you're a good mix because you need some of that to kind of off. If you're both all gas no brakes, you probably kill each other or something.
Yes, sir. Yes,
What
sir. I
what
agree.
what does she
Well,
do for you though? Like what? So you put her on the pedestal. How does she like respond to that, and how does she do that? Make you feel special?
oh man, she affirms everything that is a big deal, the wild and crazy ideas that I do come up with, and I ultimately do land the plane without any casualties. She is my biggest cheerleader.
Oh, that's
She
cool.
is she's rooting for me when it's going on. I come home and we celebrate. Even though I'm the salesman, I'm the one out and hunting and killing the food. She knows that her job is equal to mine as far as importance and the way that she does it, but she constantly affirms what she knows is a big deal to me, and it feels so incredible.
That's cool, man. You know, one of the things I was thinking about my wife Miranda, now that we're on the topic of this, is she is to me the best in the world at celebrating with you when things go well, and s- being there with you when you fail or when it's really bad or there's adverse situations, which happens obviously in everybody's life, especially if there's kids in school, whatever. That's such a rare combo. It feels like you got that too, where because some people may be good at one or the other. Oh yeah, they can
Mhm.
celebrate and party and have a great time, but then when adversity strikes, it's it's bad. I think that's like the more I've thought about it and been reflective, I think it's so important to have someone with you where you both can be really good at both of those things, where you can celebrate like let's have some fun, let's celebrate, let's go crazy. But then also on the days when it's not good and something happens that's out of your control, but it's bad, that person is also really, really good at responding and being there and being able to handle those tough moments. That's yeah, I just been thinking about that and writing about that recently, about how important it is to be able to have both those things. I'm super grateful that I do. I try to be that as well, but I don't think I'm as good at actually either end of that spectrum, but I'm trying because I'm inspired by the person I get to be with every day to get better at both of those things. And it's hard though, man. It's hard. Some people make it look easy, but for me that's a challenge.
Yeah, she's her, and being Stacy's easy. Being Greg's hard, and she deals.
Is
Well,
Greg hard to be married to?
yeah, he's a lot.
That's
She
same.
says that a lot. He's
Same.
a lot. You've probably heard this saying before. We beat this up in our house right here. A joy shared is doubled, and a burden shared is halved.
Mm. Mm.
We personify that right there because I'm an open book. She every single thing, every single time a thought comes on my head, it comes out. Sometimes that's not a good thing. It's not well thought out. She's very measured. She's so doggone intelligent. I mean, just thinks of things that I would never think of. So yeah, I feel that I understand what you're saying, and one of
That's
these days
awesome.
I'll be as good as she is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats,
Well,
man. That's
so
that's that.
I noticed one of this is a question I've known I've wanted to ask you ever since I heard it, and I told Stacy, I said, I don't want a gotcha question in my interview with Ryan because I enjoy so much of his work. And I explained it to her, and she says, "Oh no," she says, "that's not a gotcha question." She said, "When you follow up with what he's accomplished, that won't be a gotcha question at all." So I want to just say, after your first book, and I don't know exactly who it was that told you, but they said that your first book was essentially a cover band of great ideas,
Todd Henry. Yeah.
and it was assembled from other leaders, not yet your own voice. But here's where she interjected, and it made sense to me. You didn't shrink back from that. Your three more books that followed each became more personal, more successful. How did that land with you when whoever said that to you, artificial intelligence couldn't even figure out? And artificial intelligence actually said a couple people said that, but I loved your first book because it was a compilation of your curiosity.
Yeah.
But when someone said, "Hey, that's just a cover band, an assembly of everybody else's ideas," you said, "Okay, I got another gear," and took it there. And your last couple books have been infinitely better. How did that land with you when they said that?
So Todd Henry told me that. We talked about it on our podcast. I don't remember when that was. I had Todd on multiple times. He lives in Cincinnati. He's a great dude. He's very smart. He's a truth teller, and he also cares because you wouldn't say that to somebody unless you cared. He read earlier versions of Welcome to Management. I'd sent him some chapters and some like stories from within it. So I did make some changes based on his feedback before that book got published. But cover bands don't change the world, right? Cover bands, you can live a nice life, you can do some cool things, But if you're trying to like really leave a positive dent in the world, you got to play your own stuff. And so that metaphor like really hit me. I love music. I love live music. I love cover bands. You know, I've
Yeah.
gone to see cover bands. They're great. But they are just covering other people's stuff. And so, um, yeah, I mean, I think as you like keep going and you learn more, you also try to find your own voice. I have a section in the next book that I learned from having lots of conversations with various leaders, which is imitate then innovate. And so like at the beginning of things, especially like at Lexus, I'm listening to all these people make calls. I'm literally copying verbatim what they're saying to prospective customers because I don't know what to say yet. So I'm imitating initially, and then I'm innovating as I'm mashing together all the stuff I've learned with my own personality, and then it's becoming me. Um, Another story I found that blew my mind that I didn't know: the Beatles were a cover band for about a year and a half. They didn't think their stuff was good enough to play because they had written their own music before but didn't play it. They only played covers, and they had to be pushed by a manager to then start playing their own stuff. And then all of a sudden you see I Want to Hold Your Hand and all these songs come out, and they're, you know, one of the greatest bands of all time. And so it's not a bad thing to start being a cover band. I think the main learning from that though is then try to find your own voice, then try to bring your own personality. There's only one you. Not everybody's going to like it, and that's okay, but try to figure it out. But I do think it's helpful to maybe copy others at the beginning until you figure out your own style. Like if I was going to go do something new, I would probably start copying the best in the world. Like when I play golf, I'm not good at golf. I play one time a year for my dad with my dad for Father's Day. But like I watch the way a pro golfer putts, for example. I watch the way they pick up the ball. So when you play with an amateur golfer, they pick up the ball out of the hole usually with their left hand. It's weird how this happens. A pro golfer, if they're right-handed, they pick up the ball out of the hole with their right hand, and then they do this little swipe thing if they make a longer putt. So like when I golf, I do that. I'm imitating the good
Wow.
golfers because I want to be a good golfer. It makes no sense,
Wow.
but I've noticed that these little things of how they swing or how they play, I'm not good yet, but I want to be good eventually. So I'm going to imitate other people until I kind of figure out my own thing. Public speaking is the exact same way. You're constantly copying other people, how they opened, how they closed, the transition, the joke they tried to throw in there, how they responded when the crowd spoke up. All these little things, I'm copying other people until I've really kind of found my own voice. My wife, Miranda, came to my last speech, and she hadn't been to one in like 3 years. She just said, "Oh my God, this is night and day." It feels like
Wow.
you're just standing there having a conversation with a group of people. It never felt like it was a speech. And I said, "Good. I want it to feel like we're just sitting there having a talk, not like I'm performing." Well, it absolutely is a performance. Don't get me wrong. But that's through repetition. That's through imitating and then innovating. So yeah, man, I think this cover band thing is really spoke to me. I'm super grateful for Todd. We still have a good relationship. It's even better now because he's like 10 years ahead of me in life, and a lot more repetitions and kind of all the things. He's a best-selling author, a keynote speaker. He's got a podcast, one of the first of all ever podcasts. And so he's a guy that whenever he gives me advice or shares something, I listen and I try to learn from it and improve. And I'm very grateful to have people like him in my life that care enough to give me some hard truths that, hey, you could potentially be better. I see it in you, and then I go and try my best to execute on that.
Mission accomplished. Your voice is strong in everything that you've done since, and I didn't even think it was bad. I'm blown away about the Beatles thing. I know. In Welcome to Management, you talked about Malcolm Gladwell, and didn't he talk about the Beatles in his book? And I forget the book about how they would play songs
Outliers.
10,000, or maybe he was quoting
Those
everybody's got to do something 10,000
Well,
times
those
before you're
first
ultimate.
marathon sessions were cover songs. And then
Oh,
eventually they moved on to
wow.
their own stuff. And
I did
so
not know
they
that.
got good. They got good playing other people's music together. They started with 5 members of the band, and then Stuart Sutcliffe, their bassist, decided to go focus on his art career. It's like, whoa, man, you really, I hope you're happy. I don't know, but like you really missed the boat there on what happened with these guys. But yeah, that's how they started. And
Yeah.
again, so I think like if the Beatles were a cover band, and it's like, it's not
You're in good
like
company.
it's not the worst thing. Like if you're trying something new, go learn from others and sometimes
Yeah.
imitate them exactly, and then figure out as you go and get more reps, like make it more you. But I think that takes time for most of us to figure that out, and that's not, yeah, that's not a bad thing.
No, you nailed it, brother. Man, I tell you what, we're at the end of the podcast, and I cannot express enough gratitude for you taking time out of what you do. I've been fully impressed, and I'm certain I will continue to be fully impressed. You were the right guest for our milestone number 50 episode. I hope everybody that's listening to this right here, if you've been around me for any length of time longer than 5 minutes, I've recommended the Learning Leader podcast to you. It's just good. It makes you better. It makes me better. Ryan's level of preparation and due diligence and the elite leaders he has. And also, everybody get out there and take a look on Amazon and get pre-ordered The Price of Becoming, because it's coming out in July. And I can't wait to get my hands on it. I'm part of the pre-launch group. I've got an electronic copy that I've been thumbing through. I'm excited about it. Also, if you guys will hop on Tony Miltenberger's Follow to Lead YouTube page and click like and subscribe, you can hear more like this right here. Ryan, thank you so much for taking time with me, sir.
Hey man, I appreciate your prep. I sincerely appreciate the emails you send at random times and the specificity of your praise and gratitude. It's obvious you kind of bring the juice every day. That's why you attract someone like Stacy and others, and why your business does so well, because you can tell the care and energy and effort that you put into it. I'm grateful that you're here. Like we're both here in Centerville, and that you're a guy who's out there trying to like make a positive dent, man. I feel you, and we're also probably tough to live with at times. But hey, that's part of the deal. We're trying to get better. But no, man,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sincerely appreciative of you, and thanks so much, man, and thanks for your prep today too.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Everybody, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. Check us out next time.